Hi, everyone. We're here today to talk about the Klamath Mardon skipper, what's happening with its habitat that is specifically in the Cascade Siskiyous, and look at how their populations are doing and talk about ways that you can become involved in habitat restoration and conservation for this imperiled species. The Klamath Mardon skipper is only found in the Cascade Siskiyous, and meaning it's endemic. This subspecies lives in meadows. They're named skippers for the way that they fly. They don't fly very far, and so they're very tied to specific meadows in which they live year-round. And we'll look at a few of the essential plants that they need to survive. Here are three really critical nectaring flowers that we've observed them on. They are kind of habitat generalists, and they'll use many different native flowers across their range as a species. Here in the Cascade Siskiyou, I'd say these are the top three. We have sea blush on the left. This comes out in very early spring. In the mountains, it's out in mid-May. Bistort, another kind of early spring wildflower there in the center that is very tied to wet meadows. And on the right, kind of at the end of the adult kind of flying period, there's mule's ear or Wyethia. We've seen them nectaring on all three plants in meadows around Howard Prairie and Vesper Meadow. All of these plants are either in or adjacent to the wet areas of meadows. The wetness, kind of standing water, even slowly flowing water is also a critical habitat component for the Mardon skipper. And then during the other parts of the season, when they are eggs, larvae, chrysalis, they reside on native bunch grasses. And so we have two really important grasses for them. Here on the left is California oak grass, Xanthonia, and Romer's fescue on the right. This has kind of a bluish appearance. Both grasses their seeds ripen by mid-July, and they start turning yellow or kind of tawny brown by early August. Unlike some of the non-native grasses, they again are bunchy in the way that they grow. They're perennial year after year. And the bunches, the bunch formation that they grow in is really important for the Mardon skipper, who is, again, not a strong flyer and needs space in between bunches of grass to be able to take off and also land. They need like a bare earth landing pad or airstrip. Both of these grasses are places where Mardon skippers will lay their egg. They'll lay one egg per bunch of grass, and then that egg eventually hatches later in the summer, and the larvae will eat its way around in the bunch of grass. And then by the time it turns yellow in August, September, it will start, it forms its chrysalis and kind of overwinters in the base of that bunch grass. So one thing that we've come to know through some research through Xerces Society is that they can be very sensitive to trampling, herbivory, and also wildfire. So in the Cascade Siskiyou, the Klamath Mardon skipper has been monitored over the years by the Bureau of Land Management. The Xerces Society has done some studies, and there are some local biologists, Diane Keller and John Villela, who've been monitoring them over the past almost 10 years now. And they have found that in over a dozen sites where they've been dozen meadows where they've been monitoring, that their populations have declined by huge numbers, 93% we mentioned here. And you can see in this picture an example of kind of the threats that they face. There is this fence that was built I think about a decade ago when the Mardon skipper was a potential candidate for Federal Endangered Species Act listing. It was not listed, unfortunately, but this fence was built as an action to try to keep cows of the active grazing allotment out of this meadow where Mardon skippers live. And so here, this photo was taken just a week ago, July 2024. You can see to the left of the fence or inside of this exclosure, the vegetation is tall, and on the right, you can see a lot of the vegetation has been trampled and eaten back by free-range cows. Again, there's an active grazing allotment in this area, so this kind of exclosure is to protect the habitat for the Mardon skipper. We'll circle back to this in a bit. So with this precipitous decline of Mardon skipper populations in the Cascade Siskiyou, these biologists, John and Diane and myself, have been working on identifying goals for restoration of their habitat and also continuing to monitor both the Mardon skipper butterfly populations as well as the vegetative habitat that they need to survive. With the support of the BLM through RAC funding, we've done some mapping here. You can see how both the meadows illustrated on the right with LiDAR maps have suffered from creek incision, meaning the creeks have kind of been eroded deep down into the floodplain, and the expanse of the meadow or the floodplain itself is disconnected from that water. So we have kind of waterways cutting through these meadows without really being able to seep wet spring water throughout the meadow. And this is a harm to the vegetation that the Mardon skippers need, the water itself, and it kind of compounds with other factors such as invasive perennial grasses or weeds that are kind of brought in by livestock. And it's kind of suspect for why these populations continue to decline. So the project that we're looking at is multifold. It's kind of an emergency situation for these guys. The Mardon skippers are kind of intact in just a handful of meadows up in the Cascade Siskiyou. So we continue to survey flying adult butterflies every end of May, early June. We also are collaborating with the Understory Initiative to do vegetation surveys and look at meadows where Mardon skippers have gone extinct and look at meadows where they are doing well and kind of compare and contrast. We also have been doing restoration actions, collecting seeds and reintroducing them to areas that we've eradicated non-native perennial grasses, trying to restore their wet meadow habitat. So working together with Project Beaver, as well as the BLM, to kind of re-wet these meadows, which will not only help the streams, but also like restore the natural wetland vegetation that should be in these meadows. And engage with the public, not only volunteers like yourself, but also general education through programming and other public awareness projects. So thank you for watching this far. Here are some ways you can get involved. We are actively looking for volunteers to do habitat monitoring at some of the sensitive meadows where the Mardon skippers live. Here's a picture from last year where there were many cows that got into the exclosure and ate a lot of the vegetation down. We were working with some KS Wild volunteers at the time and were able to chase the cows out of there and work with the rancher to let him know. We've been mending this fence together with the BLM. And we want to keep an eye on this spot because it's one of the best habitats for the Mardon skipper. So if you're interested in that, we'll kind of lead folks out and show you where that is, engage and bring materials for fence monitoring if needed. And it's a great chance to get out to a beautiful place and really help protect the spot. Nearby, there's Moon Prairie, and this is a place that has many roads through it and some kind of inappropriate roads. You can see here, this site is very wet in the spring and it causes a lot of dispersal of vehicles driving across the meadow, essentially in what is the best habitat for the Mardon skipper. Again, it's where it's wet and there are intact floral resources. So we're working together with the BLM to address this and looking pretty hopeful to kind of protect this spot together with our partners at the BLM. So again, if you're interested in going to either Moon Prairie or Pump Chance 125, we have a protocol that we'll show you. We'll talk with you either in person or on the phone, or we'll go up to the meadows together with you and kind of take a look. And the hope would be for volunteers to go back again throughout the season. It's pretty much July through October where we need to make sure that the fence is intact to protect the meadow resources for the Mardon skipper. There's some other opportunities coming up this summer. We have ongoing seed collection, and likely we'll keep doing this in the years to come. And we do seed collection at Vesper Meadow, where there are intact floral resources. We prepare areas that have invasive perennial livestock grasses. You can see down on the left, we're using these black tarps to kind of cook the non-native grass through the roots for a summer. Following summer, we start seeding and seeing that growth come back. And then kind of, you can see on the right, there's a lot of success in bringing back these flowers that and native bunch grasses that should be there and that are really important for the Mardon skipper. So you can either join us in the summer for some seed collecting or join us in the fall for moving of tarps and laying down seed. You can find more information and events at vespermeadow.org. And it's possible the BLM will be doing some of these sorts of events as well. You can always check on the Rogue Native Plant Partnerships website or sign up for their emails to hear of similar events. You can also join us for some work that will help restore the floodplain. At Vesper Meadow, we involve volunteers in building these kind of beaver-based restoration structures in the creek. And this is to raise the water table so that it reconnects with the floodplain, give a boost to those native bunch grasses and flowers, and kind of get back to that wet meadow habitat that the Mardon skippers need. The other piece that is also going to be coming up this fall is with the Bureau of Land Management in the two meadows mentioned before, Pump Chance 125, where fence will be expanded to include more of the meadow and protect more of the habitat, as well as at Moon Prairie, where these beaver structures were created earlier this summer. Fencing will go in there and also protect it from the free range cows in that same active grazing allotment. And it's really good to see all of this work coming together because the Mardon skipper need protection in these meadows. They need the floral and grass kind of resources, and they need the wet kind of meadow habitat. So all of these things really need to be done together to be effective, and it's really great to see it all coming together. So again, if you're interested to get involved, you can email me, janine@vespermeadow.org. Check our website for events. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram for updates. And I hope that you can get involved. Thanks so much.